We will explore the substance of metaverse that generates social, economic, and cultural and artistic values, as well as its repercussions on the digital economy. During our first session, we have the moderator, Ryu Jung-hae, the EVP of Kakao Entertainment, and as our panelists, we have panelists who are joining us online as well as offline. We have Sebastian Degai, VP of Adobe 3D and Immersive Design, Ralph Koester, the CEO of Playable Worlds, and we have with us offline Im Sera, the CEO of Metaverse. Now I would like to pass the mic to the moderator. Hello. I am EVP of Kakao Entertainment and I'm in charge of future strategy at Kakao Entertainment. Today we will be discussing about a fascinating topic and I'm really excited about this session. This session is titled The Impact of Metaverse and we will talk about the different kinds of influences that Metaverse could have on us from many different angles. There are so many advanced technologies and so many different experiments that are currently going on in the world of metaverse, and we have panelists who are actually stakeholders in this metaverse world. I would like to ask each of you to first briefly introduce yourself and also what is your focus in your experiments of metaverse. First of all, I would like to ask Im Sera, the CEO of Metaverse. Hello, I am Im Sera.
So as you can see from the name of our company, we have AR and VR in the name of the company. So those are the technologies that we use to provide quality education services. So we kicked off 2 years ago. And well, our mission is to close the education gap. And starting last year, we adopted Metaverse. So because of COVID-19, as well as other factors in our society, that kind of accelerated the adoption of Metaverse, and that's actually one of the businesses that we provide. Next, we have with us VP Sebastian Degai from Adobe. So you do a lot of immersive content as well as 3D. So can you please tell us more about that?
Hello, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. First, it's a great honor to be here with you today. So yes, my name is Sebastian Degai. I am indeed the Vice President of 3D and Immersive at Adobe. So Adobe is famous for its 2D products like Photoshop and After Effects and Premiere or PDF. This new division, 3D and Immersive, has been created a little bit more than 2 years ago when my company joined the group Adobe. My company was doing the substance texturing tools, and now at Adobe we have this new division that I have the chance to lead called the 3D and Immersive. And the goal for that division is to bring Adobe to the 3D space and empower all creatives around the world, the 2D and 3D creatives, with new arsenal of tools, allowing them to express their art and their design in the 3D and spatial space. The link to the metaverse, I guess, is Adobe's keen on empowering creators to populate the world and all these metaverses that will be created. So we're here to help all artists and creators out there willing to create for these metaverses.
Oh, Sebastian, can you elaborate what immersive design exactly means in Adobe? So we have a Korean translation for the word immersive design, but I would like to know a little more about what immersive means in terms of design.
Well, in terms of design, everything that helps creators like express themselves and be efficient is good. And immersive design can have like two different meanings, and one is using the immersive space to design more efficiently. So using, for instance, a VR headset and sculpting in 3D directly in context in the spatial world, in this virtual world, can actually be very, very efficient. So we see more and more companies adopting virtual spaces and 3D immersive design as a tool to produce real life objects like cars or shoes or you name them. And then there is also at the very end of the spectrum, what immersive design can mean is also an immersive space is that space of where you experience what you've created potentially in an immersive design or in a traditional way, but you experience these worlds and these designs in an immersive way. And immersive can be same thing, can be very light, like it can be just looking at a screen and it's not very immersive, or holding a phone, and again, same thing, it's a little bit immersive but not that much, or to the extreme, be extremely immersive when you're actually inside a VR headset with the whole suit and you feel and you are within this environment.
네. Thank you very much for your great answer. Now, in terms of metaverse, we continue to hear the word immersive, and your answer was very helpful for us in understanding the concept. And next, we have the CEO of Playable Worlds, Ralph Koester. Now, I actually read your book on the fun theories, and a lot of people in the gaming industry in Korea read your book almost as like a must read. And you are currently providing a service at Playable Worlds, and could you briefly introduce yourself as well as what Playable Worlds does from the perspective of Metaverse?
Of course, thank you for inviting me to this. It's a real pleasure. I have been working with online worlds, MMOs, and metaverse technologies for over 25 years. Along the way, I did get a book about fun out of it, among other things. I'm currently CEO of Playable Worlds, where we have built a platform for online games and metaverses of the future that allows cheaper and faster development of online environments and empowers creators in a variety of ways. But I'm sorry to say we're keeping it all to ourselves at first in order to make a basically a sample project with it, a sandbox MMO that embodies what we see as the future of online worlds. And that is really what Playable Worlds is, but I don't, unfortunately, yet have pretty videos to show you. That won't be coming for another little while yet.
Thank you, well understood. And so you are one of the most leading experts in metaverse, and also all the panelists have a lot of advanced experiences in metaverse. So when we hear metaverse, people have a lot of different expectations. Especially Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg recently had a long interview with the press, saying that within 5 years' time, Facebook will be a metaverse company. And so that really shocked a lot of people. So when we talk about metaverse, I think what people are really inspired by is the movie Ready Player One. So when someone asks what is metaverse, then a lot of people say just watch Ready Player One. But when people think about metaverse, a lot of people are skeptical about whether it will actually become reality in the near future, because we feel like it's still so far-fetched. We feel like there are so many technological limitations to overcome. So let all of us be realistic. Let's think about next year, 2022. Thinking about our AR, VR, and metaverse technologies next year, what do you think they would look like, and what will the users be able to actually experience in terms of these technologies next year? I would like Sebastian to start off with this question.
Sure. So if we talk about next year, of course, we won't have like the ubiquity of headsets and suits that you can find in the movie Ready Player One. And what we have though is all these devices that allow us to get access to all these places, all these spaces or metaverses that we see popping everywhere. So AR is one way to experience these places, and VR is one other way to enter these. But there's a simple simple way to access all the experience you can think of, which is just like a plain good old computer, right? And getting there. And Mark Zuckerberg actually was saying something very provocative and smart, which is like asking how is your metaverse going. It will be asking how was your internet going, like in late 90s or early 2000s. And it's the same thing. Like today, we cannot completely comprehend the impact it will have because and we know as humans we have trouble with exponentials, and we've seen it with COVID. We cannot anticipate correctly what it means. So in a year from now, it won't look very different from what we have right now, unless there are a lot of new ways to access these worlds, and there are a lot of these new worlds. And Raf, we wait for you to show us what you're building, but it's already here when you think about it, because it's already pervasive in many places that we're used to use, like web pages. You already have a lot of 3D content on web pages that you can experience in a very traditional way through a screen, but also you can click a simple button and have an experience of that object that you were trying to buy potentially as an AR experience, and it's the beginning of it, right? So that's the mini metaverse of, let's say, a Target or Amazon trying to to sell something. So it will be this, and so we will be seeing games and education applications, and COVID only accelerated the trend, because we're doing everything online right now. We buy online, and what we see is new ways of creativity also will emerge. So maybe not next year, but the years after that. I would say that interestingly, 3D 3D can be seen as almost like the alphabet of that new language that is immersive and interactive experiences. And so that will be this is fairly new when it comes to creators. So I think it's really the early innings of metaverse, definitely, and the metaverses and all these spaces. But we'll see more and more, and it will be exponential, because you can do pretty much everything and have a digital double of real life, and more, because you can create things that don't have to exist in real life as well. So I think like the first real iteration and the first real experimentations, beside games, obviously, because games are the first ones, will be virtual shopping and shopping experiences, and that will be everywhere.
Thank you. A lot of interesting instances there. So next year we won't be able to reach Ready Player One, for example, but on the internet we will be able to have a lot of 3D experiences. And you said that we're still in the early inning. It's just beginning, so we should be excited about what happens next. And Raf, what do you think? Where do you think we'll be next year in terms of our experiences of Metaverse?
I tend to agree with Sebastian that we are going to be mostly where we are now. There is no technological revolution coming in the next 6 months that is going to radically change our pictures of the metaverse. And the fact of the matter is that most metaverse projects today are actually still chasing the dreams from 10, 15, 20 plus years ago. Even Ready Player One is really a rehash of Snow Crash, which came out, I think, in the late 80s or early 1990s. I think one of the big things that people tend to miss, even when they use the Ready Player One analogy, is that the metaverse is not about immersive 3D. It's about people, of course, because all technology is about people, and it's about ways of portraying information in new ways. 3D is one of those ways, but the metaverse in Ready Player One, which was not a good place, right? We have to remember that it's a dystopian future, was just as important in the real world, when the inverse of it was used to hunt down our heroes using robot drones and the like. Real world annotation is likely to be as big a part of the metaverse as immersive 3D is. The metaverse really just means annotating and tagging and creating digital mirrors of everything in both directions, making more things virtual and virtualizing the real as well. We are a long way from that. There are very real technical platform questions around simple things like battery life that prevent us from fully having the kinds of Ready Player One dreams. But I do think it's important that we realize that the most important technology needed for it is one that we've had since the late 70s, and that is massive concurrency on servers for real-time interaction. That is not a new technology. That's one that has been around for a very long time and is intrinsic to pretty much every vision of metaverse and cloud AR and so on, whether it be Pokemon Go or Roblox or Facebook itself. They all run against servers that hold many avatars and share information about their activities. Fundamentally, that's really what the metaverse is going to be about. It isn't about us uploading ourselves into the cloud, but it absolutely is about the cloud knowing quite a lot about us.
네.
Thank you very much, Ruff. That was very fascinating. And in relation to this topic, I'm sure that Sarah Lim also has a lot to say because she provides 3D education services. So Sarah Lim, from Marvera's point of view, where do you see ourselves next year?
사실은 뭐
Well, it's not just us. I think this is relevant to all the education providers. So I think as early as late this year, we want to kickstart this type of platforms. So nothing big, but we will take little steps at a time. So for instance, now we use Zoom to provide educational services because of COVID-19. So because of that, Metaverse was an attractive option because now children and students cannot go to school and they can now immerse themselves into the Metaverse school. And now with Avatar, and kids love avatars, and it's a type of gamification. So it's quite attractive to children. So now what's happening is now we are combining online and offline, and currently we provide about 700 services, but we want to take it to the next level next year. And now what we have is, self-study as well as digital content learning and remote learning. And now what's happening is you have another space, another universe. So you can sync yourself with your avatar who is studying in that universe. So that will start next year.
Yes, that sounds very interesting. I actually have a kid in elementary school, and I'm really drawn by the idea that you just said. And also, I think it reflects the idea of compensation in the book that Raf wrote. So it's very fascinating. And thinking about the future of metaverse and the technology, we also have to cover the economic aspect of metaverse. We have to think about the kinds of economic potential that metaverse holds. Earlier, Raf said that there's the idea of a digital mirror for everything that exists in the real world. So it's in a way you are creating a digital twin, and everything will be connected between the virtual and the real world. And I think that is what will really differentiate metaverse from the other virtual technologies. And I'm sure that this holds great promise to a lot of different companies, and also we will offer a lot of different economic opportunities for the users as well as the businesses. And in the gaming industry, especially in MMORPG games, we already have some types of virtual economy in the online game industry. You can sell your items and buy items online. But of course, these online items don't exist in the real world because we don't have a metaverse. But for example, if we see metaverse advancing, then we could actually see the connection between the two. Actually, I have heard about cases where people sell land and even rights online. And I would like to know the economic potential in metaverse. What kinds of new economic activities do you think would be possible in metaverse? And because Raf is in the gaming industry, is the CEO of Playable Worlds, I think you will have a lot to say on this. So why don't you start off for us?
Sure. So the idea of earning a living from performing virtual activities in a game is not at all new. I remember the shock the day that I first saw a castle in Ultima Online, which was a game that I designed back in 1995 or so. The first time I saw a castle on sale for $1,000, I was stunned, right? It was, at that time, it was a shocking figure. The idea of trading digital goods, of course, is now very widespread. We see people making a living in blockchain-based games like Axie Infinity and so on. I think the place where this gets more interesting to talk about is not just mere virtual goods transactions, even though so much attention towards blockchain and NFTs is pointed in that direction. It's actually more interesting to think about the evolution of labor in general. When somebody buys a digital object like a castle that a player worked their way up and earned, what's interesting is that the player earned it. So they performed some sort of labor along the way. It just so happens that in the games, that labor is killing dragons and monsters and that sort of thing. But, you know, as our co-panelist Sarah mentions, that labor could take the form of schoolwork. That labor could take the form of knowledge work. Any form of white-collar work is easily transferable into a virtual environment. And it's fairly easy to see the evolution of virtual labor moving away from just the acquisition of virtual goods and towards things like knowledge work, everything from data entry to knowledge generation, such as the experiments that were done starting in the 90s with distributed computation for protein folding using screensavers and things like that, which have turned out to work. They just announced that they solved a major protein folding problem just last week. So that's where it starts to get really interesting. And what gets even more interesting about it is that we have to remember that companies controlling metaverses means that they control the labor markets. Those are not free markets. So from an economic point of view, it is going to open up a lot of really interesting questions that some of which we've already started to face. So for example, there was much controversy a decade or so ago about outsourcing the process of killing monsters to other countries in order to farm gold. And then some of those workers began to form labor unions, right? Those sorts of things are likely to develop and evolve out of this. And just because I do need to touch on the reverse, which is metaverse spilling into the real world, we should also bear in mind the impact of digital economies, particularly in mirror worlds, on real worlds. So for example, if a company operating an AR game like Pokemon Go chooses to put an important monster, or in Pokemon it would be a gym, and they choose one coffee shop on a street over another one, it starts raising questions. Are they interfering in the business of those two coffee shops? Are they liable for directing traffic to one versus the other? Are they engaging in improper advertising? Who owns the virtual space, right? All of these are going to be very significant economic questions as the metaverse develops.
이거 굉장히
Thank you. Something that I've never thought of before and very interesting. So I think that also can connect to the next question. So Sebastian and Raf, you both mentioned how the economic activities can actually connect in the real world and the virtual world. And I want to know a little more about that from Sebastian because Adobe it has always been so well known for 2D and now it's also becoming a strong company in terms of the 3D. So how do you see the connection of economic activities between metaverse and the real world?
Everything wraps basically. Like there is the very simple answer of the digital twins of everything real in the virtual world. So how do you? There is a huge work already that needs to happen in terms of transferring somehow what you find as a real life object into a digital virtual version. And there is a simple reason for that. Well, one is as soon as you have the virtual version of an object, doing photography of that object and producing images that you can put then on a website to be sold is way simpler in 3D than in real life. You don't have to send over a crew to some exotic place and organize like catering and security and doing one shot and then flying all over the world again, like to do a second shot, maybe because the environment is better there and the light is good there, right? So it's a lot of money. It's not very secure when it comes to COVID right now, obviously, and it's very expensive. So having a virtual version of that object allows you to create these images, and we know there's a direct relationship between the number of images that you find of an object on a website and the probability of sale, right? So the more images you have, the more probable the sale. And it holds true when you have an experience, just like being able to roam around an object and just visualize it in 3D. Very simple experience. Like again, these are the basic things that we don't want to think about, but there is a huge demand. And then obviously, so like all that thing is like helping the real life economy, and but also in parallel we also have like the ability to unleash the virtual aspect of it and create virtual versions of anything and create virtually new things, right? And so everything that we've seen in MMORPGs and in gaming is holds very true. And then obviously you have then the questions of authenticity and accessibility and security and sustainability, etc. All these are questions that we hold close and we think are very important at Adobe. And these are the questions we need to ask ourselves, because when you think about it, like having a digital double of an object means no barriers, but having virtual objects means no limits, really. So Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, was saying last week, like the virtual economy could end up being like really bigger than the actual current economy that we have right now, because there is, again, no limit. I mean, theoretically, right? Of course, there is a limit in terms of power consumption and storage, and it's back to sustainability, of course. And these are the big questions we need to ask ourselves. But virtually, there are no limits. So that imposes what Ralph was talking about. Like we need to regulate that a little bit, right? So it's a true economy, and it needs regulation, because it's a true economy, and that going back and forth between the metaverse and the real world is a very true thing. We will see leaks everywhere because it will become like so ubiquitous on the virtual side that it will become undiscernible from reality. And when we get to that point, and that we might get sooner than we think. In fact, we still have these devices to access this world that are clunky, and battery question was a good point, but also the heat, just the heat of like something you wear on the face, right? You don't want to burn your face. So like the form factors have to evolve a lot. But anyway, so these are raising a lot of huge questions, and we're really at the beginning of it. And I think there are huge and important questions, and we have to, it's a responsibility, in fact, to make sure that we don't end up, the same thing that goes with AI. If you read somebody like Max Tegmark, who's a very, very interesting physicist, basically he's trying to have like physicists of the world talk about like the potential of general intelligence, general artificial intelligence, and what we need to think about right now, not to be stuck in a place where in the future it's too late. So with the digital visual economy and the metaverse, I think we're in the same at the same place right now, right? And so Adobe is pushing for all of this, but mostly Adobe's mission here is always like to support creators and empower all the creators willing to create good things, because like we are about to see new forms of art. That's interesting as well. I like this idea.
Yes. And so this is a topic that encompasses so many different domains, including philosophy and physics. And Sarah, you use this technology to create amazing educational opportunities, but
계신 교육의 굉장히 새로운 경험들을
you also have to make money. So what's your profitability model?
당황스러웠던 부분.
Yes, so it wasn't an easy task because, of course, we are in the educational sector, but our target is MZ generation. They love games and they are used to playing games. So at the planning phase, we wanted to target that. And we copied domains from other areas to win the hearts of our users. And of course, they can purchase, some icons as well as some items as well. So we linked that into our business model, and as Raf mentioned, we have this kind of labor union, and if you do not connect that idea to our business, then it can be like gambling. So we have to make sure that it's a fine line, but we have to make sure that we do not fall into a gambling business.
Yes, and I think this leads to our next question, which is, we're still in the infantile stage of Metaverse, so some may think that it's too early to discuss this question, but let me throw it out anyway. For example, there are already sales of digital art using NFT, and how much should the artists get? And what does copyright mean in this new world? And also, as Raf and Sebastian said, these days we already see a lot of AR technology usage, utilization, and how are we going to protect privacy? And Sarah, I know that you've had an experience in this context recently, so I would like to know about that experience and what should the government and the authorities do to prepare for this future?
Yes, so in terms of governance and regulation, I don't think I'm the right person to talk about that. But for instance, it's about access for minors, so that links to crime and cyber crime and cyber attacks can rise in the metaverse. So we have to be vigilant. At the same time, while students communicate and learn in the metaverse, and we can acquire so much data from that metaverse. So sometimes, parents and children will just agree, will just consent to the contract, but then they have to be careful.
Yes, because Metaverse is a world that's connected with the real world, all the problems in the real world can actually happen in exactly the same way in the Metaverse. So we have to be prepared against that side effect as well. So there are some challenges. in terms of metaverse, but I believe that there's a greater promise that metaverse holds. I believe that it will provide the humanity with great opportunities. For example, in healthcare, I know that a lot of people are interested in adopting the technology of metaverse. Because I know that during the clinical practice of the doctors, there are a lot of technical limitations and space restraints and so on, and time restraints and so on. And I know that Metaverse could be a great tool for healthcare professionals to build their clinical practice experience, and it could actually reinforce the user experience of healthcare services. So I am very excited to see all of these positive impacts of Metaverse. And I want to know about the positive impacts in your own field. So, Sarah, could you begin?
얘기를 주셨.
Yes, as other speakers also mentioned, Metaverse does not just replace 3D in schools or in other learning environments. It's a different concept. So it's about motivating students to learn more, and Metaverse can play an important role in that. So VR and AR learning is actually widely applied in the public sector, educational sector. So I look forward to next year and beyond.
And Sebastian, in terms of the Metaverse experience, not necessarily in the next year, but in the following years, what kind of positive experiences should we get excited about?
So, from the point of view of Adobe and my point of view, like what we really are concentrated and focused on is making sure we empower artists and designers to create more efficiently and create more freely, in fact. And so we know that tools are here to help artists remove barriers between them and their creation, right? So we see the immersive space as a new expressive space, expression space, and what is the camera obscura of that space, right? How can we unleash a new form of creativity? How can we and on a very practical side, how can we help being more efficient of just designing real life objects but using virtual tools? So really this is our main focus, is how do we provide the right tools, the right content, and the right services to artists and designers to create more efficiently and to create differently, and to embrace this new space of immersive, the metaverse, right? And what is an experience? What becomes an experience? And it doesn't have to be 3D only. And to Ross's point earlier, a lot of 2D content will also flow into this world, which is also why Adobe saw an opportunity there, because obviously all 2D creators out there a lot of them are using, not all, but all of them are using Creative Cloud products. So by adding the 3D immersive tools, design tools to this arsenal of 2D current tools, it's a good it's a good way to empower these artists. And yeah, that's I would say that's our main focus. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very excited about the future that Adobe will bring us. And I look forward to your rapid development of these technologies so that other companies can also follow suit. And right now, we are meeting virtually. We are on the opposite sides of the world. If we had Metaverse, we would have been able to actually see each other in the Metaverse as if we were in the same space. So, Ralph, in the world that you are creating, do you foresee ourselves holding a conference together in the same space of Metaverse? Do you think that Metaverse will create... where do you think is the potential for enhanced experiences by Metaverse?
Oh gosh, I do have to point out that my first virtual conference was probably in 1995, maybe 1994, right? A lot of these experiences have existed and have been enabled. A lot of what has improved is the connectivity, the quality of rendering. It's not just text anymore. It's not just 2D anymore. It's not just 3D anymore. Now it's VR, right? But fundamentally, the big thing that has increased that matters is not rendering. No offense to Adobe, right? Because like all technologies, what matters is people. What matters is the uses that people put the technology to. And the big thing that has increased over the decades that I've been working on this problem, more than the graphics, is the connectivity. It is the connections in between people. It is the ability to have conferences flung all over the world. It is the ability to meet and interact with people, with cultures, with ideas that you otherwise would not have come into contact with. And that can be scary and disturbing and challenging. And we have seen those challenges play out, I think, in real world politics and in the real world economy. But I also think that an effect of it is to bring us not closer together, but to a greater understanding of one another. And if there's one thing that I have hopes for in this ongoing development of the next generation of internet, call it metaverse, call it whatever we like, it's actually that we come to understand and value all of the differences that people around the world have and the ways in which the technology helps us see them, appreciate them, learn from them, and develop. Because one of the greatest potentials of metaverse is actually cooperation, learning how to cooperate and work with one another fruitfully, whether that be to learn better in a classroom, make better art, or slay a dragon more efficiently. The thing that we have always seen in online worlds of all sorts is people from different backgrounds coming together and learning together how.
네네. 래프 정
Thank you very much for your answer, Ruff. I think you're almost like an ambassador for Metaverse with your great message and hopeful message for the future. And I am also excited by that future as well. With the contactless format becoming prevalent, we are now so much better connected using virtual platforms like Zoom. And now, when we have the Metaverse technology, we will have an even more better understanding of each other. Actually, we had a lot of questions from the audience for the session, but in the interest of the time, I think we will be able to address just one. No? Okay. Okay. So we have a lot of questions, but I do not think we will have the time to address the question today. So we may send you an email with some of the questions so that maybe you could get back to us with a couple of answers for the questions. And once we get your answers, we will be able to share them with the audience. Thank you so much for your time today, and I really appreciate the discussions with you about Metaverse. I had a great time, I learned a lot, and I hope to see you again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
세션
Thank you very much. So, as you said, we had an opportunity to have a vibrant dialogue between the US and Korea and overcome the time difference. And that is thanks to the digital technologies. And we apologize for not being able to entertain the questions in the interest of time. So, all the topics that we addressed today at DEF2021 includes metaverse, digital healthcare, as well as data governance and future talent. So please stay with us until the end of the forum. And if you have any more questions, leave the questions on the chat box. We hope to offer more insights.